Hello, hello, name's Alan. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today we're going to be playing yet another special build, i.e. we're going to be starting things off with two starter relics, the second of which will be a run modifier, a cursed relic from outside of the game. Specifically, from the lobby, where you would assemble your builds, unlock items at set chart, where you can pick up to one of these before actually entering your run. That means if you were to randomize a run, you would only know in hindsight whether your choice was foolish or not, as you keep cursed relics. They can't be discarded even by a randomizer. Now, today's build, I almost forgot about, to be totally honest, until I scoured through the Discord, the official Wizard of Legend Discord, and I found I believe it was Blue's build around this item, and it kind of reminded me, did I actually forget making a build around this as I pre-produced my content, and I've pre-produced about half a year worth of content, including literally every single other Curse Relic, or rather Run Modifier run, and I completely forgot about this one. So I am here today to make up for it. I'd say without hesitation, let's get right into it, shall we? Today's build is called Rules of Unreliability, which is a clear and concise name to our run modifier, which we will also be presenting right away, as it's quite essential to understanding the quintessence of this build. Today's build is incredibly clunky, unreliable, as the name suggests, and quite frankly, terrible. All these abilities are horrible, or at least in combination with one another. These make up for a totally horrific type of build that I would not wish to my worst enemy. It's just so bad. If you ever get something like this in a randomized run, oh boy, I feel so sorry for you. Let's get right into the run modifier though. We're gonna need that bad boy. Otherwise, I will probably scratch my eyes out. This might take a while. I believe there is some kind of bug, or is it a feature, where if you actually did manage to pick up the run modifier and to run, and then you died or you left, you would find it back here 99% of the time. But I don't usually do that unless I pre-recorded something and I scratched the record, or unless I just did a bunch of test runs with a specific item. I don't think I'll be needing any test runs for this item. In fact, while assembling this build, as per usual, of course, I did play a couple of runs to figure out the worst possible build to use for this relic. As this relic is incredibly powerful, we are going to be combining it with the absolute worst of the worst abilities that I could come up with. Abilities that pretty much guarantee for you to be hit, at least occasionally, and defenseless, and abilities that have a very long cooldown, that just don't hit very consistently, that can miss easily, or that can just altogether become entirely useless. There it is. It's the Rules of Contingency, which is a reference to the maker of this game, Contingent 99. And it's a double reference, if I do say so myself, as this item makes all attacks deal 99 damage. Contingent 99. All attacks, meaning including all enemy attacks. Literally every single one. I'm not sure about traps here, to be fair. I haven't played that much. Trap rooms are usually quite rare anyway. I'm not sure about falling into pits. I bet that this is not going to apply, because they shouldn't count as attacks, naturally, right? But we'll see. We'll find out. So, whatever we use, it's gonna be overpowered as shit, because everything pretty much one-shots all the regular enemies for a long period of time, but also you deal a hefty chunk to bosses. So if you were to use lightning abilities, for example, that generally hit very frequently, you could just obliterate everything right away, which is ridiculously overpowered. So I decided to flip things the other way. Make a build as clunky and unusable and just horrible as possible. Pretty much guarantee that you're gonna be hit occasionally, and then we have to kind of work around that main issue of this build. But we will talk about all that stuff in the build specifics. Let's swiftly move on to the actual build here, shall we? Starting things off in traditional order from this point going forward with our Robe, which is gonna be the Shift Robe. For the aforementioned reason that everything deals 99 damage to us, meaning that we die in roughly 5 hits, dealing roughly 500 damage. Now, the Shift Rope leaves us at 500 max HP first and foremost, which is very crucial for this build. You want as much max HP as possible to just be able to make mistakes without perishing right away. It also increases your evade chance by a whopping 10%, which is going to be very handy. This is the only rope that grants that much evade chance, other than the 5% granted from the Patience rope, which quite frankly isn't super useful. As all attacks deal 99 damage, I don't think that armor is going to do anything for me, as I'm pretty sure the rules of contingency just completely overrides the effect of armor, making essentially this damage true damage or piercing damage, if you want to call it that. So I believe that everything, regardless of how much armor we got, will deal 99 damage to us. So evasion is the only defense mechanism that we can actually try to utilize, and it's quite a good one, but 10% evade chance is not a whole lot, let me tell you. Even like 50 or 60 is not a whole lot when you risk dying in 5 hits. So we're going to try to maximize that by getting the Robe upgrade right away. It also increases crit chance by 5%, but we really don't care about that. I don't think you can crit with this. Again, I don't have a lot of experience. It's just a gut feeling. Everything dealing 99, it just wouldn't make much sense for abilities, whether it be your enemy's abilities or your own abilities, to be able to crit additionally to all of that huge load of damage. So I believe that's going to be entirely worthless. If not, the all rope might be worth taking into consideration, increasing the crit damage massively and the crit chance massively, respectively. But I'm going to be running Shift Rope, which I feel is just a very safe pick here, and a very obvious one at that as well. As with my beliefs, i.e. armor being entirely useless and crit chance being entirely useless, this is the only rope that you can actually go for here that makes any sense whatsoever. Moving on to our first starter relic, it's going to be another defensive item, and it's going to be one of the strongest in this game. It's going to be Cassim's Airy Cloak. I personally really adore this item for very aggressive playstyles. Today, we're going to simply be using it to just not die right away. As when you get hit by a single attack, an unmitigated attack, i.e. it goes straight to your health bar, damaging you, not damaging a shield first, you will be stun-locked. Whenever you're attacked, you're stun-locked for a short period of time, and there are certain attacks in this game, loads of them in fact, even from regular all-day enemies like rogues, for example, that can stun-lock you into oblivion. And what does a stun-lock mean? When every tiny wee bit of an attack, regardless of how low its base damage would be, deals 99, well, the consequence, the only logical consequence, is death. Immediate death from being stun-locked. So Cassim's will try and provide some form of mitigation of all that. It has a very long cooldown. I believe it's 45 seconds, maybe a minute. Just another gut feeling here. I don't really like to base my knowledge on facts. Ew, dude. Like, reading up on this? Nah, that's disgusting. Let's just make it a gut feeling instead. So, regardless, this can proc, let's say, once a minute, potentially saving your run. It's very powerful. We really want to play around it. And when we don't have this up, I think we should simply wait for it. Just not play it risky. If I'm at 99 or less health, I'm literally a one-shot to any attack in this game. Oh, okay, well, that's a pretty bad example, because then Cassim's wouldn't do much. But say I'm at twice, right? I can be hit twice or thrice and then die immediately. I would really want Cassim's to be there for me, just to get my back. Likewise, you could probably run the limited edition rope, so you would never be able to take more than 50 damage in a hit. I'm not sure this actually works out. I didn't try it out. If it does, great. It makes the run a whole lot easier, but that's not really the point. I want it to be difficult. So Cassim's is a very strong defensive option, but still, I'm going to be taking at least 100 damage, or roughly 100 damage with the 99 damage on average, which is great. I like that. I don't want to mitigate the damage that I'm taking. I want to punish myself for screwing things up. You could likewise argue for things like Ella's Glass Kite, or any revive item like these three here for the Firstborn's Gauntlet or Gauntlets period, you could argue for a lot extra healing, etc, etc. But you know my stance on all of this, we're gonna try and make things clunky and make things superficially very difficult. Let's get into the Arcana though. This is really the nitty gritty of this build in a very, very negative fashion. Starting things off, of course, with the most clunky, arguably the clunkiest basic Arcana in this game, Obsidian Splitter. Even on floor 1, this thing can be impossible to hit. It just takes so freaking long. It's a melee charged ability with a very, very huge width. It's a massive cleave in front of your character when you tap in, and very, very high base damage, which is not gonna matter here whatsoever. So its only strength is not very important at all. The base damage just does not matter. Everything deals 99. I could be running a very fast hitting, very easy to use, very reliable ability here instead, but of course I'm running the slowest, clunkiest, hardest to connect, weirdest hitbox one that I could potentially find here. So when you tap it, it deals damage, cool, but it taps very slowly. As you can tell, there's a huge delay in between. Even with something like a Fueled Berserk, for example, this is still horrible for just holding down the Arcana. You really never want to do that. Instead, you charge it and then you throw an axe. You deal damage with the initial cleave and then the throw. And when enhanced, it also explodes at the end of the throw for a third time, dealing hefty chunk of damage. Now, why is this so incredibly hard to hit? Because, first of all, the first hit, it's very, very sluggish. The charge duration feels incredibly long, and you only hit once before the charge, actually, so your head better be hitting your enemies, and you can't really allow yourself to miss. You can easily be cancelled, as this just takes forever to cast the ability. Then the X-Throw itself is not that easy to hit. It doesn't have the greatest range. It is a melee ability after all, but still that's very annoying. And on later stages, let's say stage 3 going forward, but realistically already from stage 2 going forward, enemies are just so fast, they will be coming at you by the time that you start channeling. It's ridiculous. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, and I really like this ability a lot, but it's just so fucking clunky. It's unusable for the most part. It strongly depends on your build. You need a very specific build for this to ever be useful. And late game, i.e. stage 3 going forward, this is entirely useless regardless of your build. You cannot make this work well or reasonably, decently, consistently well enough to warrant picking it up, making a build around it, heavily investing into it, into practice, into relics, etc. It's just so freaking clunky. Let's swiftly move on to our dash. Now, there's a lot of clunky dashes in this game. I just decided to go with my personal least favorite, which is Flare Rush. Oh my god, I hate this so much. So you dash forth, and a bunch of flares start accelerating behind you, essentially flying forward into the direction that you dashed into, like so. Now, these are very unpredictable. It's very hard hitting a single enemy with all these. You can tell that the apex here is quite far away from the main ability, or from the initial dash location. So if I were to try to hit this single target over there, right, the target dummy, that'd be incredibly hard. Also, since there are enemies behind me, the flares will just collapse immediately on those enemies. As they don't pierce, instead they just pop on the first enemy hit. They also burn enemies, which is fantastic, but as you can tell, it doesn't deal 99 damage, so burn isn't exactly useful whatsoever. This ability is just my personal nightmare. It's super sluggish too, so let's say you were to use this like a spike track, dashing forth to try and execute enemies to actually try and damage them. Now, you have to be a certain distance away from them for the flares to even be able to connect with your enemies in the first place. Like, this wouldn't work very well at all. Just look at that. The vast majority of the flares just missed there. Also, they are not instantaneous. They take a long-ass time to hit. You are at the at the destination way earlier than these flares. So even for projectile destruction, for example, these are incredibly worthless, and putting more charges on it or enhancing it for more flares is not worth it whatsoever either, because there are the initial base problems of this ability, with the sluggishness, with the clunkiness, with how difficult it is hitting this, how useless it is that it only flies into one direction, which is where you're actually heading, that it has such a huge delay on it, and it's just so bad, and it only hits once per flare as well. Horrible. Just horrible, horrible, horrible ability. I hate it, especially up close range. This is entirely useless, but also when trying to use it as some sort of ranged ability in a boss fight, for example, it just does not have enough range. It isn't fast enough, and it doesn't warrant to be used that way either, since the damage that it actually deals is horrible. Even with this 99 damage rule, this is not going to be very useful. That right here is pretty much the only applicable situation, and even then, in a real run, I would have never hit any of these dummies, or at least I wouldn't have hit all of them, since some of them would have moved by that point. I really hate this so much. Moving on to our standard, an ability that isn't actually super clunky, but due to the nature of our run modifier, won't be super useful either. It's gonna be Whirling Wind Agent. Now, if you have been keeping track of our ability kinds so far, you you would know that we got 3 different types already. We got a melee basic, a projectile dash, and now a summon ability. How could this get any worse? Well, you just wait. You just sit and wait, because our signature is gonna be an undefined ability. It's none of the types. So, in a real run, if you were to run this build, you would be miserable, first of all, but you wouldn't really be able to enhance these abilities, neither individually, nor altogether with an item like a Dark Arcana, or a Chaos Visor, for example, or any of the books. You can only ever enhance one of these at a single time, which even makes the build just so much worse if you think about it. But we are not really going to be caring about that whatsoever, as everything already deals max damage achievable, pretty much. So, Whirling Wind Agent. This is an agent, i.e. you summon 2 small elemental balls of, well, the wind element in this case, doing certain things that the element is very good at, and wind isn't very good at anything. So these agents just move around and bash their heads into enemies for the sweet, sweet 99 damage. But likewise, they die in about 1 hit, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 2 hits. But I believe it's 1 hit from what I can recall. I played this build a while back. So these are melee agents. They have to get up close and personal. They can easily be hit. They can easily be struck by a projectile just casually flying through the room. They are very hard to control. I'd say they are completely uncontrollable. They have a terrible range, a terrible tether or pull range to your character. So when you walk away from agents by a certain distance, they have to follow you. They always have to be on screen with you at the same time, or at least remotely close to you. And the tether range on a melee ability is always drastically worse. You want to be as far away from enemies as possible, and then your agents to do the rest. And melee agents just can't do that whatsoever. They have a terrible proc range for when they actually detect enemies, so you have to be rather close to enemies in the first place, and then you can't walk away all that far because the tether range is just as awful, and they will immediately start running after you. Additionally, again, the key point here is not that this is a summon and this is a melee agent, because I could likewise be using the Earth Stomp agent for a lot more success, in my opinion, and something that is a lot more reliable and great to use. But instead, I'm going to be using this. Just look at that. They are so slow as well. They can pierce, but that's not really anything special. Let's compare these to the Water Pulse agent, for example, which is just infinitely better, but does kind of a similar thing, just from afar, and that's the key point here. Also able to kill multiple enemies every single shot, as this is a literal shotgun hit. It also hits multiple times, as you can tell. Look at that damage. It's not always 99, sometimes it hits for twice the damage, or thrice the damage, but generally speaking, these agents, the Whirling Wind agents, don't ever do that. Now, We got good news for this one. At least the enhancement is going to be somewhat decent. It is somewhat worth investing into, unlike the other two enhancements, as the agents are going to be moving and attacking much faster, which is nice. I say much faster, trust me, it won't make that huge of a difference overall. They still die in one hit, they are still kind of useless in boss fights, but we will get to all of that in a second here. Let's just finish this build off with our signature, which is the definition, the definition of an unreliable ability. Dragon Surge. It is essentially a summon ability, which is literally uncontrollable. It just goes its own way entirely. You can't pull it with a tether range. You can't kind of manipulate when you really wish for this to hit a certain enemy, or what enemy you would like this ability to target. You just can't. You cast two surging dragons flying through space and time, just randomly through walls and shite, and trying to attack the closest enemy possible in very wonky ways. Now, at least these signatures are enhanced, so these dragons are going to be a lot longer. Therefore, it's a lot easier for them to actually connect to something and hit enemies. Generally speaking, I'd say on the first hit, they are reliable. Every hit past that is just sheer luck what they're gonna hit, if they're actually gonna connect to anything. They are very sluggish. They always try to come back, wrap around to your character. So when I cast them this way, they won't just fly off screen and look for enemies over here. They will try to wrap around this point and then try and come back at some of these enemies. But generally speaking, they're just so slow. I do like this ability a lot, don't get me wrong. It's just so freaking unreliable. Now, they do hit rather frequently when they do connect, as they have a length. Think of them as worms, and every single segment of this worm deals damage to enemies, contact damage, i.e. So these can potentially deal very high amount of damage, but the nature of them means that you can only hit while standing in front of a target and while initially casting. And then everything past that point is sheer luck, especially in a boss fight. Think Zeal, for example, someone who's very quick. You want to stand in front of her, cast this. It might be enough to finish her off. Let's be honest, that's a ton of damage. But if not so, you might have to walk around a bunch, and your dragons might not be able to connect to her again, as she might just get iframes or always dodge them super quickly. It's just not a very good ability. However, it is a lot better than any of the other three abilities that we are running here. Now, the signature is much more powerful. You cast twice the dragons, which, yeah, that's neat. Oh, it's not twice, actually. I thought it was 4. Is this 6? It looks about, yeah, looks like 6 dragons, which, yeah, that is a lot better. That is actually not half bad whatsoever. However, keep in mind that our signature charge generation is through the roof ungodly. We are never gonna get there, I don't think. Look at that. When we actually do connect our Obsidian Axe, first of all, it will kill everything in one swing, so we won't generate any signature of it. But if we somehow manage to do it, look at that tiny bit of signature generated for this super clunky hard hit ability. Same for Flare Rush. Now, that's a whole lot more, actually. And then the agent does generate no signature at all, as all agents do. And so the only ability that really generates signature is this. An ability that hits only occasionally. In the meantime, my signature will deplete pretty much every single time I use this, and I will pretty much never be able to gather a full signature unless I find certain items like a surefire rocket, for example, which stop the depletion of my signature charge entirely. But even then, signature should be rather rare and infrequent, and still rather hard to achieve. It's going to take multiple rooms worth of enemies to accumulate one full signature charge bar, and then I still have to get very close and hit it, and the dragons still are not allowed to miss as massively as with a Zeal, for example, or a phase 3 Sora with a ton of iframes, and they just dodge everything right away. You get what I'm saying. It's not the most reliable of abilities, and it doesn't count as any of the categories. If it did count as a summon, my god, it would be so incredibly overpowered. Imagine being able to cast more dragons, stronger dragons, more a higher maximum number of dragons, make them heal you when they kill. Like, oh damn, you could do so many things. But I digress. Let's move on to the build specifics instead. There's a lot of interesting stuff to be said here. Let's start things off, of course, with the intended build playstyle. Now, in my opinion, you really want to play around your summons. Your dash and basic are awful, and you should try to avoid them at any cost. Just don't use them, don't rely on them, if you can do so. If you're locked in a room, for example, you should absolutely rely on your agents and get into the nearest corner. Just try to basic plus agent plus signature your enemies down. Don't try to make any fancy plays with your dash. Don't try to be in the middle of the pack, in the middle of the very action with your Obsidian Splitter basic Arcana either. Just stay far away and watch the chaos unfold. Maybe, hopefully, your agents will be faster than your enemies and able to finish off the room for you. You won't need any other abilities in addition to them. In certain edge cases, I'd still say the Whirling Wind Agent will manage to maybe kill 2 or 3 enemies and then might get overwhelmed, but then you won't be left with nearly as huge of a group of enemies, and you should be able to more easily finish off whatever is remaining. Keep in mind your absolute utmost priority is not being hit, as it's just so... It will very quickly lead to a painful death. It will make you faint immediately. 500 max HP is nothing. We don't have any healing whatsoever. We cannot afford being hit. We simply may not. And therefore you want to be very defensive, very conservative with your use of abilities. Literally get into a corner, stay far away from enemies, dodge projectiles, focus strongly on the dodging aspect and on kiting enemies around more so than actually trying to attack them. Try to focus on your agents and your surge, everything that fights for you, so you don't have to pay attention to the course of battle and instead can focus on running around wildly, dodging everything flying your way. In terms of potential problems of this build, the largest problem at hand here should be literally dying as early on as possible. You sometimes can't really do anything about it. Sometimes you just enter a room, and the first room you happen to enter is like one of the hardest in the game. Say a trap room that freezes you frequently, or say there's a bunch of archers that you can't really take care of, or a bunch of summoners, or a ton of small enemies like slimes, or larger enemies that you're not very much used to fighting, and you just don't get that patterns right away. You might just die. But then again, here's a bit of a tip. Larger enemies don't hit frequently, so they're not as huge of an issue whatsoever compared to small enemies like slimes that will just berate you and keep jumping into you, dealing 99 damage on every consecutive hit. You have to be very, very careful with those things, otherwise you perish immediately before even beating 1-1. So that's going to be a large issue at hand. I'm not used to this type of pressure behind my back, or on my back rather, so I'm gonna try to get accustomed to it. I'm gonna try to get used to it and adapt, but keep in mind, only 5 hits and you're dead pretty much, right? And Cassim has a very long cooldown, so it's rough out there. It's very, very rough, and it's very easy to die and slip up, make mistakes, to get overwhelmed or to underestimate a certain type of enemy, like a summoner or a mage. Why can't I see my cursor? I hate that. Piss off into the corner, thank you. Or, likewise, it's easy to be absolutely devastated by a mini-boss like the Ranger or the Rogue, for example. I find those very, very hard at times. And now think enemies that hit very frequently, like a Shu, or like a the Lancer mini-boss, for example. They hit you, what, like 20 times? With one attack, you're dead. Guaranteed. Cassims will help with those. They will help so you won't have to dodge them, like your life literally depends on it, because your life literally depends on it. They get you killed in one attack, guaranteed, without a Cassim's Airy Cloak. So you need this item to be active. If, for example, you were to slip up during either of those fights, against, say, an ad of the mini-boss, or a previous attack bites you, you should make a run for it, or you're probably just dead right away. Let's be fair, it happens. And it happens a lot, and you should get used to it. Don't expect your run to actually be completed here. And don't expect me to complete this run today either. I'm just going to try to show off a very clunky build. I dare to call this even a challenge to actually win. So let's see if we can actually manage to beat that challenge here today. If I do screw up on 1-1, I think I will restart right away, as I don't wish this video to be way too short and not very entertaining. I, after all, want to play the game, not just talk about it all day long. We are here for playing. Mainly. Let's move on though to my favorite section, recommended items and Arcana. Now, you want to go for Arcana, mainly. Arcana that keep you alive, like jumps that grant you iframes, like lightning abilities that strike an entire room very frequently, like a bouncing shit, what's it called? Is it called Bouncing Surge? I believe it's called Bouncing Surge, which is just the Zeus spear, the lightning spear sort of that you throw into one enemy, and then from that enemy it ricochets through the entire room. From enemy to enemy, just jumps around, killing everything immediately. You really want to find these kinds of abilities that hit entire rooms. Scales of Babylon is very, very, very good too, because it grants you a huge amount of movement speed. Cooldown reduction, it hits pretty much an entire room, and it pushes enemies far, far away from you. So even if anything survives, they simply won't be too far away from you to ever follow suit in trying to kill you. Other abilities worth mentioning include the regular jumps like Airborne Slam, Thunder Drop, Seismic Entry, etc. But also Permafrost Bulwark, especially in this one. I hit my mouse again. I hate this cursor. I just want to disable it. I really hate this so much. Permafrost Bulwark, one ability that I mention literally all the time, every single video, as it is just perfect for absolutely everything you do in this game, including a challenge round such as this one. You can encase yourself in a block of ice, dodging all attacks. You can break free from it whenever you wish. It deals a huge chunk of damage, well, it doesn't really matter for the purpose of this run, but still it has a very large radius around your character that it will deal damage in when you break free from the ability, and when enhanced, it also deals damage in the first place when being encased in the ice, leaving a bunch of icy traps around your character, which is fantastic. So enemies can't get close to you, and you can just dodge whatever you want. You can play very aggressively because you can encase yourself for a very long period of time. It's essentially a second Cassim's Airy Cloak. So we're really gonna try to fit it to find any of these abilities. There are a lot of lightning abilities, let me tell you, that come to mind here, and I just really want to focus on that. I think in terms of additional items, I don't think we'll need any, quite frankly. Maybe additional healing and evasion would be fantastic. I'm not sure I can take something like a double trouble. I am really not that sure. I've never tried. I hope I don't want to. Like, I wouldn't. If I were to come across it, I wouldn't pick it up. But here's the kicker. There are a few evasion items in this game. Cursed Relics, additionally, that grant you a huge amount of extra evasion, that have a massive downside. Like the boots, for example, the green boots, whatever the hell they're called, which make you receive double damage, but grant you a large amount of evasion. So it's essentially the double trouble disadvantage, right? However, I'm not sure I can actually utilize them, or I would probably just die right away. Same for Double Toil. I think Double Toil might be very, very good for this build too. Doubling your cooldown reduction, or in other words, halving your cooldowns, but also receiving double damage. If I cannot, under any circumstances, receive more than 99 damage per hit, great item. But I don't think things work that way. So it's a very risky pickup, like a Double Trouble in a 300 or 100 max HP regular run. This is incredibly risky, and you always have to be held accountable for your actions and your item choices, and you might just die in one hit or two. Literally. So keep that in mind. There are a lot of very good Cursed Relics. I'd say armor should be avoided at any cost, but let me know if you actually manage to make a build that can mitigate the damage dealt by rules of contingency, because I just don't expect that to be possible whatsoever. But I'm gonna have to do some testing. After all, I'm just here to play a clunky build, not to make this build actually work well consistently or dare I say, even be very strong, because you just deal 99 damage, but everybody deals, what, like 50 damage to you with a limited edition room, for example. Either way, I don't think we want to focus on items, but if we had to, I'd recommend additional items for defensive mechanisms, such as cooldown reduction, evasion, but also for offensive capabilities with stones, with sprites, fairies, pixies, because they deal additional 99 damage, even if it may be quite infrequently. It's still 99 damage, which is a ton of damage. Let me tell you, that is a crazy amount. You can play a shitload of builds as well. This is a very versatile run modifier, as it allows for literally every single ability in this game to be viable, regardless of how abhorrently terrible said ability may be. With all of those things having been said, I'd say let's get into run. We will of course try to dodge Shu here, as Shu is easily the largest troublemaker of all of the bosses, as well as the evasion dungeon being, generally speaking, absolutely horrible to fight here early on. We just cannot deal with evasion well whatsoever, especially the agents. They will just they will just be repelled right off of the skin of evasive knights and then die in one hit. I'm already sitting on the edge of my seat here. I mean, we did find the jewelry box. I think that's a very, very good pickup. Potentially C99 might be very good too. That's a lot of healing, though we would have to carry it around for a considerable period of time, slowing us down massively. Okay, I will try and find some books additionally to try to at least make my agents be a little more useful, even though you saw right there, they die so quickly. It's usually not even a very useful ability in the first place. I'm glad I already found a decently reliable source of healing. It's gonna come in very handy. I want, personally, long-range abilities, so that I can simply poke from afar and won't have to actually enter rooms to finish off enemies. So this LB that we found is gonna be very useful. What's it actually called? Gale Force Alignment, right, the weird one. Which might be related to a physician or a physics term, I'm not sure. I don't know what Gale Force means. Or Gale Forced, either. Play things very slowly and carefully here early on. Okay, that's already a very annoying trap room. Oh wow, did he survive a hit there? That's crazy. That is crazy. They have more than 100 HP, so my guess is... more than 99 rather, my guess would be 100, maybe 120. Something, roughly around that. Okay, let's head downwards. Maybe, maybe not. No, we can. Always try to pre-fire into a room. You never know when enemies might just run at you. Full force, full speed, and you just don't have any time to dodge them. Whirling Wind Agent upgrade, yes. Shock Assault, yes, absolutely. That's one of the absolute top abilities that comes to mind with this build. And then we have the Blazing Jump as well. So Shock Assault, I dash forth, and when I do connect with an enemy, it essentially strikes the entire room similarly to a Lightning Surge. However, the disadvantage of this ability is that it is a melee ability, and I have to actually connect with an enemy. I am left invulnerable, but also it's kind of very, very hard to tell when you will actually break free from this and where you will exit. So it's very easy to fuck up with this and take damage when coming out of it, which we absolutely want to avoid like the plague, right? Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, follow me, Surge. try and play around corners. And I should be absolutely golden. Haven't taken any damage so far, which is great. So I do have the Cassims open for TP. Let's pop everything right away. Very nice. So the Gale Force is going to be incredibly useful. It's a very long range skill shot. Most important for the teleporter boss, as you can tell right there. I can pretty much hit both of the regular enemy spawns right away, killing them off. Just not having ads over the course of this fight is going to be very useful, generally speaking. And then also, it will also, in the meantime, connect multiple times to the boss. So this one ability might occasionally be enough to literally just finish the entire room right away. I think we wish to simply move on here. I don't really have to care for enhancing all of my abilities, as a luxury handbag, for example, ain't gonna be very useful. In fact, the corresponding other cursed relic that unenhances items, and for each unenhanced item hit, it will reduce your cooldowns, but for each enhanced item hit, and then therefore unenhanced item, it will grant you extra damage. I believe that's a lot more useful in terms of acquiring cooldown reduction. So in fact, I think I wish to not enhance my abilities, if anything. But there are certain abilities that are just so powerful that you really just want to enhance them. For example, there are the agents, right? Gale Force is another one that is very, very useful when enhanced, but not super. That would have been a very annoying projectile. Snowflake. Yeah, freezing enemies I consider very useful. This might help with finishing a lot of enemies off. It deals AoE damage. 99 AoE damage is a ton. And then also finishes off any remaining enemies by freezing them. So I can then actually finish them off. Or they will die to a proc chain of, well, special snowflake. Perfect Storm is very, very good. Huge radius, easy to hit, hits very often. It's area denial, essentially, and can freeze. Other than that, I don't really see anything. Blazing Bits does hit a ton, and therefore deals a ton of damage, but it keeps me caught in the animation, which can be potentially run losing. I might want to pick up the Storm. I'm not sure actually. Oh, extra evasion, that's great. Guaranteed knocks on every stage. Do I want that? I think I want that for now. I definitely want to have my Robe upgrade too. I think I might want to find a Dr. Songs as well at some point. I will fetch that for now, as it won't affect the current stage. So I might get lucky and find the Robe maker. I might have that now. His profession maybe. Is it the Clothier Robe maker? Does it have a special kind of term? I'm not sure. To me, it's just the Clothier. Okay, now it's a Dr. Songs. That's also kind of useful, but I can't really use that yet, because I would get rid of my Shock Assault, which is an ability that I would much prefer keeping. Let's move towards the exit here. Oh, damn. What a combination. A 2 Arcana, or rather, 1 Arcana, 1 Relic combination that will just devastate entire rooms. For generations to come. You just have to memorize the spawn points of enemies, honestly. It's very that simple. You just cast a Gale Force in advance before they can actually spawn fully, and they're already dead. It's fantastic. Same here. Boop, boop. Alright, we got the Nox token. I'll also pick up the graduation cap, so I could potentially net myself double item drops, but also I receive increased gem gain, which is nice with the jewelry box. I definitely wish to toss the Royal Flush, as I believe I cannot do more than 99 damage a hit. So Royal Flush is useless. It literally does nothing at all for me. but I can do so later, potentially. I don't have to do so now. I can also potentially consume it for an adorable mimic, considering that I got a token of doom, but again, what's that gonna do when I can only deal a maximum of 99 damage a hit? Damage is just not useful in this run. That's the only time I will ever say that about damage. Don't be so offended, please. Oh, damage coon. Ooh, Blazing Bolt. No, I kind of regret not having traded away Shock Assault. Yeah, Blazing Bolt is very good. It's a jump, so iframes, and it has a rather huge range. But Shock Assault is still a lot better, probably. I will keep the Blazing Bolt, because then I won't need projectile destruction. This ability essentially grants me easily controllable iframes, so I can simply jump through or over projectiles, ignoring all of them in the process, when I need to, which is a lot more useful than Shock Assault, for which I actually need to hit an enemy. An enemy, first of all, needs to be in range of me, and then I need to be able to hit it as well. Both of those are conditions that are simply not true a lot of time. I don't believe I can be crit on, so Puffy Parker should be very much useless. Jumper cables is cooldown reduction on movement abilities, so both my dash as well as Shock Assault as well as Blazing Bolt. That could be very good, but I don't intend to use both Shock Assault and Blazing Bolt. I think I'm going to be using Blazing Bolt for now, while Shock Assault isn't enhanced, and then I'll actually pick up Shock Assault again, as this is literally one of the best abilities, period. It can hit an entire room worth of enemies, hit many times all over per enemy, so very useful, while the Blazing Bolt could potentially be a lot better into bosses in terms of raw defensive capabilities. I don't think, therefore, jumper cables are a worthwhile purchase. Maybe they are. I'll just grab them later when I get the money. They are on sale either way, and both of these abilities can actually utilize them fairly well. So it seems like a naturally very useful pickup. Just play around corners, cast the longest range skill shot available, bait enemies into walking into it, and watch everything explode due to a special snowflake. Isn't that wonderful? Keep in mind I don't have Gale Force up right now, and it's back up again. Crazy cooldown in it. Let's cast Dragon Surge. It's a little more reliable as it can actually go through walls here. Okay, making things a lot safer in that situation. It can also easily get rid of those barrels for me, which is fantastic. Rock and Roll has a rather large coverage, but it's unenhanced, so the coverage is still limited. It's gonna be one less saw, and they're not gonna be as wide, I think. Firewall is very good, but only as long as enemies are actually actively running into it. And it does destroy a lot of projectiles, which we're not going to be seeing a ton of, as we're going to be challenging the Lightning and Earth dungeon here next, meaning that the bosses just don't feature a lot of projectiles naturally. So Firewall is going to be super useful for this particular run either. If you find yourself finding this ability on a run where you have to still beat Freya or Zeal, definitely pick it up. It's very good. Just get rid of their entire ultimates. Or their, like, the Freya ultimate, right? In that case, I'm over-exaggerating here. And a lot of their projectiles, a lot of their attacks are projectiles that can be destroyed after all, so Firewall is incredible. Also incredible for the Ranger mini-boss, which I believe is probably the hardest mini-boss fight in this game, especially on Stage 3 going forward. So Firewall can be incredibly devastating against those bosses, and super helpful, only when used defensively. Even when using this offensively, say you are standing in front of the Ranger and casting the Firewall on side of him, it will still get rid of all the projectiles flying away. So it's still mostly defensive. Other than that, Scales of Babylon is fantastic, running a large amount of cooldown reduction, as I mentioned in the beginning. Huge range, movement speed. Oh man, I don't think I want it though. I think Gale Force is much more powerful for the context of this run. Blazing Bolt also seems quite useful for now, so I will keep it to potentially dodge rangers and shit. I think that's a lot more reliable than these scales right now. I already got a room clearing tool with the Perfect Storm plus Gale Force. Oh my god, he survived that? That's crazy. But again, my jump is only a defensive tool. I don't intend to kill enemies using it. try and group around this. Cool. And then try and work around what you already got, right? Or what we already got, which is the special snowflake. Incredibly powerful, as you can tell. This is just one free Scales of Babylon on every enemy that dies, essentially. Think of it as that. It has a huge range, roughly the same range as the Scales of Babylon. It deals exactly the same amount of damage, which is 1 tick of damage, and it's just so broken here. Look at that. It just does all the wrong for us. Now, while Gale Force is a narrow line skill shot, which lasts for a considerable period of time, regardless, it's still a narrow line skill shot, meaning that it is easy to miss, and you want to play around it. You want enemies to walk into it and then proc your perfect storm. Your special snowflake. That's the context of this run. Now, had I not found these two, I would have had to resort to a different kind of strategy. But in the context of this run, that's just an overpowered combo. But any 2 item combo in this run can become overpowered as shit. Gotta cast the agents when I have everything else on cooldown, and I need a safe way to damage enemies. I never want to use my basic. I never want to use my dash. I think they're just way too unreliable. Okay, get closer with the jump there, and then cast the agents to finish him off. I find that very helpful. So, about Nox. Do we grab double toil? We could, and we will. We'll try. We will challenge the unchallengeable. Now, anything else? I don't think so. I don't recall anything. Jumper cables could be super useful. We'll grab them. Come on. Let's not even debate. Just grab them and move on. Don't think about it. Cooldown reduction is gonna be incredibly powerful. The more cooldown reduction I get, the more I can abuse my jumps or my shock assault, hitting entire rooms. It's great. I can even abuse my dash if I want to. Oh yeah, look at that sweet, sweet special snowflake. Trivializing rooms, quite frankly. Okay, just jump through the crowd there as I didn't know there. I couldn't really assess whether or not I'd be hit by one of the smaller slimes. There were just a lot of them. There's a lot of stuff going on. This is a... oh shit, I didn't know there was a pit in that. This is a room with three waves worth of enemies, so you want to be very conservative with the ability use. Enemies are also going to be spread out widely apart, so you need to take appropriate countermeasures by not simply trying to rely on special snowflake in this particular. In this particular iteration. Now, excuse my lack of talking here, but I am highly concentrated on the run right now. I don't think I took double damage there, but again, I got a Cassim's Airy Cloak proc. Cool. Had there been another wave, I would have actually used my basic there for a second. Same here, honestly. No need to spam my Gale Force there. I can just finish them off from afar. All of those are melee enemies, so they will try to rush me, i.e. come towards me. Same here with the rogues. Just be careful with the second one. Keep in mind that they teleport immediately when being hit. Which I believe counts as an ability, actually. At least it does have a cooldown there. Don't just do it non-stop, right? You'd be unable to hit them if they teleport in on every single hit, negating the hit. Regardless, it is an ability, or an ability-like trade, I suppose, that you can abuse and work around. Oh yeah, perfect storm. Even proccing off of the flare rush. Ain't that incredible? No more evasion in here. That really blows. I don't need extra money, so I'll just move on. Cast everything in advance. Oh yeah, dragons! Let's go! Chainmail isn't super useful. I'm missing my green. Where is it? No, it's way over here. Okay. Didn't even realize, to be honest. But then again, who needs items anyway? Oh. Grandma's Ruin, I believe it's called, for extra damage, but we don't really need that whatsoever. However, the Ruby Key is a convenience tool that I do like using. I will toss the Royal Flush and grab a Windstone instead for a slight bit of extra crowd control and a ton of extra damage. Again, this is literally another proc of Scales of Babylon. Huge range procs, just hits everything around you, most likely killing it in the process, and then pushing everything away from you, stunning it for a short period of time as well. Incredible stone, probably the best out of all of the stones. Cobalt, arguably, is very, very good into bosses, but Windstone for room clear? Oh my god, yes, please, thank you. Okay, I think I will keep Blazing Bolt here so I can kill them while they are in their ultimate, though I wouldn't particularly expect them to even get to their ultimate. Let's just cast Gale, as this hits many times, and the Surge, and then watch them die. Exactly. Just keep the jump as a backup in case we ever need to dodge. Okay, wow, that's also very powerful, but we're not going to be running that. It hits very often, but it's less reliable than Gale Force, as Gale Force is stationary. You put it down, it's there, it remains for a while, you don't have to care about it whatsoever. Whereas the Dragon ability, it kind of spreads out starting at your character and then grows longer. It's not stationary. It's a moving skill shot that moves sort of wave by wave or position by position. Again, no interesting items in here whatsoever, so let's swiftly move on. Okay. Now, I am at a bit of a weird point where I can use my basic occasionally. Oh, the cooldown reduction is sweet. Can I throw it through the wall? Not really. Doesn't have enough reach. Okay. Now, as the axe hits twice, it's just enough to finish off slimes, which is what I was referring to, or trying to refer to here. So it's gonna be decently effective into slimes, and I'm gonna have to waste a use of a better ability here in order to get rid of the pesky smaller enemies. Which, keep in mind, they are a much greater threat when compared to large enemies. As large enemies, or colossal enemies, only hit once, usually. Let's just do the finish line here. Nope. No jumps. Not needed. I'm very much surprised that I can't just one-shot the chests. It's kind of weird. So do they have 100 HP? Probably. What? He survived that too? That's crazy. An all-day rogue. Keep in mind, stage 3 archers love to attack twice. They won't just hit you once, they will shoot you twice. I'm still very focused on the run here, I gotta admit. It's kind of stressful, but also I am quite chill right now. To be totally frank with you, I don't think the run is very problematic at this point. I think we have gotten past the most difficult part of it, which was really just finding a special snowflake. Because this thing just raised the power level up to 9,000. Or over 9,000, should I say. Nothing interesting here either. Maybe the Conqueror's Belt, so rogues and archers lose abilities, but do we care about elemental? Yeah, I guess we do. I guess we do. It's always somewhat helpful after all. And then projectiles destroy projectiles. We don't really have projectiles, so can't say I care much. Moving on. Nothing interesting here. Feel like a broken racket. It's all damage. And then a glove that is just way too risky to use. enemies are getting very tanky, notably. Try and rely on Surge and the agents. The agents are trapped over there, so they can't just walk back towards me, which is great, meaning I can just abuse the shit out of them and let them try to finish off the room for me. Oh yeah. Oh no. Get away from me. Stupid summons. Proc the room. It's a wave-based room, so we gotta be extra careful. Okay. I can imagine this build being quite fun to play for someone who's not that experienced with the game, who doesn't know the room layouts by heart. I'm not sure that will work out well for them, but hey, I would love to watch. Oh yeah, just walk around. Dash away. Oh my god, dude. This item is crazy for this run. I just love Snowflake so much. It's one of my absolute top tier items, one of my all-time favorites. However, in this particular run, it's just way too overpowered. Maybe we should forbid it entirely. Dash out of the way just in case they would try and teleport there. I always prefer being a bit of a pussy, or being over-prepared, rather. Well, overtly cautious might also fit. Just in case. I just have made my fair share of experiences with rogues and being stun-locked. I will of course grab a second stone here. And so I would much prefer avoiding any additional trouble. I'm not sure they can even teleport due to the Conqueror's build, to be honest. I don't think we'll need the Ruby Key anymore. Probably worth picking up the Gami vitamins for the remainder of the stage, just so I won't be poisoned. I'm still looking for my pink, and I still gotta clear a boss. I can't really do much more with money at this point anyway, so I might as well spend it on the vitamins. Even though they're not gonna be useful against Sora, they will still end up being useful into Atlas. Potentially. He can poison me, after all. Where's my pink? Oh, it's next to Nox. I didn't even see it. I'm just spotting it now. Very well hidden, I gotta admit. Now, granted, I was a bit of a doofus. Was being a bit of a doofus last time I got here. I believe this is where I started off, due to the ruby ring rate, so... I did already guess that it would lead me down this path, but I didn't actually want to go down the road. Oh well, I'll grab it. Why not? Let's try and beat the boss. Ouch. Bastard. That hit me down to 380. Oh, because I fell into the pit earlier. Right. No, I would not like to pick up the same one. That's just absolutely no downside. Sorry, absolutely no upside for a massive downside. Everything costs radically more. Yeah, I'll just keep this stuff and move on. Honestly, I should be fine. I shouldn't really be afraid of anything in this one. I should just finish the run off, which is exactly what I'll try and do. Now, Shock Assault hits very frequently, but I will again try and utilize Blazing Bolt to just straight up dodge one of the more annoying attacks, like the Earthen Walls, for example. I'm not usually a fan of trying to properly dodge that. Alright. That works. Thank you, dragons. Quite useful. Swap back to Shock Assault. That's going to be very useful for the room clear here. And then we swiftly move towards Sura, step by step. Use shot for the orbs. Whoops. I missed it. Whoopsie. Oh wow. Goodbye. No extra evasion here, that's kind of unfortunate. Now, I did arguably forget about dropping the Nox token at some point to try and find the Robe upgrade, but I was really trying to dig for extra evasion, which I couldn't manage to find. So, ultimately, I don't think it would have been worth it dropping this at any point. I'll just grab the upgrade. And then, I think that's it, right? Vitamins are gonna be useless for this fight. So will the graduation cap be. So will the Conqueror's belt be. Anything else that I can drop the token? Clearly, I think jewelry box as well. Snowflake probably as well. I'm not sure that procs off of the orbs as they are summons. I don't think it would proc off of the orbs, but I'll keep it just in case. And yeah, these are the essential items that we could manage to find over the course of this run. Any additional items from over here would be entirely useless. Ball lightning hits very frequently. It might be a very great choice, but I already got the alignment, man, which is a great poke damage. I mean, ball lightning is arguably way better, even when unenhanced, but I do prefer the Gale here. Staying truthful to myself. Long range poke damage while he's having a downtime and I can't reach him? Sure. Arguably, ball lightning kind of does the same thing. Holy crap, dragons deal so much damage up close. Go, agents. Oh my god. He just popped. Man, the dragons in the end just coming through. Holy shit, that was very uneventful, I'm gonna be honest. But I played that in a arguably very clean manner. Now, I should have probably forbidden myself to use Gale Force, or at least at the very bottom line, should have forbidden myself to use Special Snowflake. Seems a little bit busted. Or maybe I should have forbidden myself to use enhanced abilities altogether. It seems a little busted. Still, taking everything into consideration, I barely got hit. I could have also sped up enemies, to be frank, but I just didn't really feel like it. Speeding up enemies makes your basing and dash unusable at the very beginning of the game, as well as the agents, arguably. And the very beginning of the game is where it all starts, where you can pretty much decide whether or not you want to continue a run, whether you're actually having fun. If the very beginning of the run is already crucially painful and unfun, I personally don't feel like finishing it. So I should have probably added a little bit of extra challenge here. When I played this previously, I didn't get nearly as lucky with my items. I didn't find stuff like double toil or extra evasion or even a special snowflake. And I got my ass handed at times. I didn't lose per se, but it was a lot more challenging. I feel like today I might have just gotten very, very lucky, especially with my abilities, but also with these relics. Dude, the special snowflake, I just can't get over that. It was crazy good. I hope you had a good time, regardless. Not every Seraphine has to be 3 minutes long, after all. Some of them are longer, some of them are much, much shorter, like today's. Thank you very much for watching, regardless. Hope you had a good time. And until next time, you know how it goes. I wish you all a good morning, a good day, or a good night, wherever you are. And until next time, bye-bye!